I'll tell you about the class later, unless you want to know about the class now. I'll let you choose. Now, okay. So, because we are in Washington, D.C., the mecca of deafness, because Gallaudet University is right down the street, there are tons of deaf people that I know, and many would like to start coming here. So, to help facilitate this being a community that works for the highest good of all in the D.C. metro community area, decided we were going to finally offer an American Sign Language class, a 7-week class, teaching you the basics of how to communicate using American Sign Language. So there will be more information about that. Feel free to check in with me. I can let you know stuff. It's going to be on Wednesdays, starting the 2nd week in October. 7 weeks, we're going to miss the weeks of the meditation, Thanksgiving, and I think that's all. So just FYI. We good? Good. Sure? Because now it's that time. Are you ready? Yes. Okay, I'm fine. Listen here. We already know. I'm new to a couple of faces in here, but the rest of you know. Are you ready?
Yes.
Thank you. I feel at home already. So, have you ever been in Washington, D.C. or New York City or somewhere where you walk down the street and there's someone standing on a corner and they've got a microphone and they say, "Can you tell me?" And they ask you questions like, "Can you tell me who the President of the United States of America is?" Or whatever, and they're asking you questions, right? Suppose you're walking down the street and they come up to you and ask you a question. And the question is, who do you serve? Very innocuous question. Who do you serve? Think for yourself right in this moment, how would you answer that? Who do I serve? And the reason I'm asking this is because once we determine who and what we are serving, it then immediately falls into place. I have to know what it is that I am doing in service of. Meaning, if I am serving this, then what am I doing? What am I being? What am I putting in my consciousness to move things forward in order for me to serve whatever that is? Now, in the Bible, there's this interesting passage where it says, you cannot serve two masters. You cannot serve God and mammon. Now, it's interesting that there's this guy named Virgil who wrote this piece of work called Paradise Lost. I don't know if you ever heard of him or read it or whatever. But there's this place in there where he takes mammon, which normally had been used to mean money, wealth, riches. You cannot serve God and money, which makes perfect sense. I can't serve. Hello, dollar bill. What do you want me to, that's ridiculous. I can't serve money. But when we make the money our God, then we are serving it. But Virgil says that mammon is actually a lesser demon. Like the demon of obsession. So then it's like, well, just what if? You cannot serve God and whatever this thing that I am obsessed with. Like, my consciousness is there's only one power and one presence, period. But we already know, if we recall, remember I told you about this story about Elisha and the woman with the oil, and, she's like, Elisha, how much, oil? And then, get everything that can hold the oil and pour and pour and pour, and this one little tiny thing poured until she got to the last container and then the oil ran out. So our consciousness will receive just as much wealth, abundance, prosperity, life, joy, etc., that we allow ourselves to be the receptacle of. So when we allow ourselves in consciousness to serve or to be obsessed with scarcity, what seeds are we then planting? Or are we planting seeds at all? One of the things I mentioned on the thing that Amy talked about was, are we planting our seeds in fertile soil? Or are we dashing them to the ground for the birds to eat, for the sun to scorch and shrivel up? What exactly are we doing with whatever we are placing into consciousness? Because if we are not very mindful, then we are at the beck and call. We are forced to be victims of mass consciousness. So if we are not purposefully driving our craft, our boat, and sails are up, but we're not the ones steering, then whichever way the winds of fate blow, we're going to determine where that boat goes. So are we consciously choosing to be both gardener and garden in a way where we are focused saying, this is what I want to experience more of? And in order to experience more of that, what must I consciously choose to think, choose to be, choose to do with this. Now, the month of September, Home Office has established as the month of September is the month of sacred service, serving one's community, however one wants to phrase that, being in loving service. So I started off speaking at CSL Columbia, and one of the things I talked about was this idea of self. Dying to this self so that this self may be what is moving. Now we talk about let go and let God. What are we letting go of? We are letting go of the lower ego. We are letting go of the baser consciousness that feels, but I have to have, I need. Whereas this consciousness says, no, you don't. All that you could ever want or need, you already are. So letting this aspect of self die. Letting this, waking up each day and realizing there's a part of my consciousness that I have to focus on releasing and letting go. One of the things Tracy, Raymont, and I did a couple of weeks ago, we went to there's a gentleman at Gallaudet who is a deaf Buddhist monk. And 2 times a month he holds a meditation. So we went. And one of the things he mentioned, which I love the visual, is normally in American Sign Language, this is the sign for letting go of. So whatever this is, I'm letting it go. And he said, let's think about letting go as you have it in your hand and you let it go. Meaning it's still there, but I'm no longer holding on. I'm no longer focusing on. I am simply surrendering, saying, there it is. It's still there. The anger is still there, but I'm not holding it. It's there. Gently, with compassion. Because what we tend to do is, we get obsessive about. We kick ourselves in the butt about. I did it again. I should know better than this. And those thoughts in consciousness force us to repeat the very things that we want to release. Because if we are giving it attention, if I am saying, why am I so whatever, and I did it again, why can't I ever, and that's what I'm planting, then what am I going to continue to reap? Those are the seeds that I'm sowing. If I'm looking at whatever's going on in the world and I think about all of the bad things that are happening, and that's what dominates my mind, then what am I actually focusing on? What am I putting my attention on? If you go to an ER and the doctor says, oh, you've been shot. Oh, you've broken your leg. Oh, you were in an accident. And the doctor focuses only on what exactly happened. When do they ever stop to take care of, to bring healing into? When they say, oh, your nose is bleeding. Oh my goodness. Like when do they calm down, step back, knowing that there is a law called health and wholeness? That there is a law that they are helping to facilitate so that your body can do what it already wants to do, which is be restored. The doctor has to see past the injury in order to do what they need to do. In order to treat the patient, the doctor has to see, yes, there is an injury, but I know that if I do this, and this, it brings homeostasis, it brings health and balance back. Otherwise, I am focused only on the fact that you were bitten by a shark. And then my mind only focuses on that. So if we ever look at our lives, whatever is going on in our lives, it's a demonstration of what exactly we are planting. Right? So the relationships we have, the friendships, the family bonds, the co-workers, are the people that we do not get along with. Do we not get along with them because of something we are planting in our consciousness saying, well, you know how she is. I don't never go down to her office. She's that kind of person. But what if my consciousness about her shifted and changed? What if I stopped feeding into, and I don't care what she says, what she does, when I plant new seeds, when I stop letting the weeds of that whatever choke out my consciousness, does that or does that not force a change in how I now react with this person? There's a gentleman, Charles Raymont Barker, who who says, get the man's for me, who says, business is God in action. And he says, when we consciously incorporate the Spirit into our working lives, things change. Disgruntled employees mellow, customers are appreciative, the boss lightens up. Co-workers are genial, a feeling of well-being infects the workplace. All because we have done the work within our own consciousness to allow Spirit to express itself as our working life in our environment. When we change, things in our world change. So rather than bemoan the government that does, or the parents who did, or the whomever who does, ask ourselves, what am I doing to change the face of the garden of this life? Am I willing to challenge when I hear someone step forward and say things like, oh, life is short? Am I willing to say, I don't believe that? Or do I say, yeah, I hear you, I know exactly what you're talking about? Because if I say, I hear you, I'm co-signing, I am agreeing, I am saying amen. Yes, life is short. Which then means everything in this teaching I have just said, yeah, whatever. Because what do we say, and I'm sure many of you have heard it before, there is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is magnificent, it is beautiful, it is powerful, and that life is my life now. So if there is only one life, and that life is the life of the thing itself, the one mind, consciousness, love itself, love made manifest, and it is glorious and magnificent and beautiful and powerful and abundant and prosperous and all of these things, and it's only one. And it's right here, right now, as me, as you. Then how can life be short? But what do we do when we get around certain people? We let them rob our garden of its joy. We let them come through and rake through the roses and the tulips and the cousin to the pineapple, and we let it, we rake through, for those who don't know, Lisa, this is related to a pineapple, and we let it rake through stuff, and it destroys, and what do? They leave in their wake of destruction weeds, which, as Lee pointed out, weeds are only weeds because we have labeled them so. Weeds are merely other types of plants and flowers and species, but what do? We label it. So they come through, and it's bad, and then our life has no choice but to mirror that. Because it's what we allowed in our consciousness. But are we willing to step forward and do the work? Meaning, anybody familiar with this book? Yeah. So, would you consider this a light read? No? No? Okay. So I'm going to venture to say that the vast majority of us probably haven't read this entire thing. Chances are. We may have, yeah, I read some of it. I pulled some quotes out of it. But what if I told you, because Reverend Brian over at CSL Columbia he points this out all the time, that this is all you need to read. The first 4 introductory chapters. Holmes takes all the rest of this to expand on these first 4 introductory chapters. This is the gist of Science of Mind, Religious Science. This is, now let me expand upon it so you really get what I'm talking about. This is, let me show you my grandmother's recipe for lasagna, and let me show you all the other ways that lasagna can possibly be made. This is all we need to read. Now, I'm not saying don't read the rest, but ultimately, in order to understand this teaching, first 4 introductory chapters. But see, we get to this, and we're like, oh, it's too much to read. I can't read that much. It's too dense, it's too thick. But if I told you that the secrets of everything you could ever want, health, joy, love, peace, were found in all 9,600, they don't really have any pages, in all of the pages, would you read it? The vast majority of us would say yes. But is there somewhere in our consciousness where we doubt? We're like, yeah, I mean, it says, yeah, I mean, we talk, yeah. But what if I read and it really doesn't change anything? Then don't read the entire thing. Start off with the first 4 introductory chapters. And I guarantee you, I've seen far too much evidence to say that if you read this document on biology, on botany, with its basic rules of how to plant and grow, how to nurture and grow, and you apply it, then you will get results. Why is it called the, that's the S word, science of mind? Because it can be mathematically proven, demonstrated, if we are willing to do the work.
Absolutely.
So once again, it comes back to the seeds that we plant. We are known by the fruit that we grow. Are we a barren tree? Not showing the full abundance and prosperity and wealth and well-being that we are supposed to be demonstrating. And keep in mind, when I say wealth, abundance, and prosperity, no, I'm not talking about just money. But money is one of the many aspects. I'm talking about the entire scope of the 3 T's: time, talent, and treasure. All of these should be flowing to overflow in our lives. Whatever our talents are. So anybody in here write, like poetry, novel, something, then that is one of your talents. And that talent should be overflowing to the point where you're like, I don't ever want to sleep because I love writing so much. It fills me with so much joy. Anybody in here cook? And I mean cook like you put your foot in it kind of cooking. I mean, wow. Cook. That is a talent, because there are others who, I'm not going to say any names, but there are others, I'm not going to say, there are some people that I know, I'm messing with you, Tracy. There are some people that I know that, how many times have we joked about people, oh, such and such can't boil water, they can't make toast, whatever. Cooking, and cooking with love, is a talent. We should step into that and allow, because what that means is Source, God, the universe is saying, I want to show up as you with this talent to nourish and feed others through food, to nourish and feed others through the spoken or written word, through comedy, through education, through prayer. I want to, as me, showing up as you, change this world. But do we choke it out? Do we say, not me? Do we do what many in the allegorical stories of the Bible say, Lord, I know you want me to build a boat, but I ain't want to build this boat. Lord, I know you want me to go to Nineveh and do this stuff, and okay, wait a minute, I'd rather get eaten by a big fish. Lord, I know you want me to, but Lord, I have a stuttering issue, so... And God finds a way to say, fine, Moses, you stutter, take your brother who doesn't. Don't tell me you can't. Are we the ones who say, but are they going to like me? Are they going to read it? Are they going to hire me? Are they going to call me? Are they going to... I don't know, and you don't need to know. Because if we really look at, you woke up this morning, did you know what cars you were going to pass on the road? Did you know that no cars were going to cut in front of you? When you went to the store to shop, whenever last you went, did you know that the thing you wanted to buy was going to be on the shelf where you wanted it to be? How often have you gone to the store to get whatever and it's going, you got to drive around all town to find that whatever it is. There are many times that we go throughout life and we don't know. The example I often give is, how many of us fly? We talk about traveling to countries in Japan and stuff. You got to get in that long metal tube and trust that it's going to leave the ground long enough. But the thing is, you're trusting the person in the cockpit that you can't see to move and manipulate machinery that you're not seeing. Who's trusting the people on the ground who you don't see. They're not following guidelines in the clouds like there's lines on the clouds and they're like, I need to stay within the lines as I'm flying to Texas. Like, it's not there. It's trust. All we need to do is trust. You don't know how that seed goes in the ground and well, one person in here might actually know. But the majority of us, when you plant the seed, we don't know exactly how science and how the earth, and we don't know how that happens. But what we know is the seed goes in, and something happens, and the seed breaks open, and something in the seed comes up and out. And then it breaks through the soil, and it grows. And then the sunlight and the water and the nutrients, and it grows. And then eventually, it turns into a tree that is now sprouting more apples with more seeds in each of them to continue to feed the planet. And I don't know how it all started with that first seed. All I know is I just need to put one seed in the ground and take care of it. We don't need to know how. All we need to know is what. What do I desire to experience? So Reverend Alex mentioned, let us refresh our memories for a second. We practice the gift of active compassion and loving kindness through our service to all life. So once again, the way I started, who do you serve? Let's just take that one. You serve all of life. Because if you come here and you are agreeing to this mission and vision and purpose, you are agreeing. Then on some level you are saying, yes, I am here to serve all of life. And serving all of life begins by serving this community. How do you serve this community? And serving the community begins by how do you serve that which is your own life? Are you a skilled and efficient and effective ruler of your own mind, your own consciousness, your own life experiences? Or are we running through the garden of our lives and our experiences, bemoaning something that mom and dad have done or conditioned us to think, do, or believe? But whatever my parents did to me, because many of you have heard, I grew up as an abused child. I grew up as an abused, what was that last word? Child. I'm 51 years old now. I'm the one who chooses to say, that's what my mom did to me. I choose to bring the memory of that here. How many of you have ever watched a movie? Play with me. Community visioning will not be happening, Reverend Alex, today. We're all going to the movies because we've got some newbies in the room. Have you ever watched a movie and became so engrossed in the movie that it pulled up tears? Tears of joy or tears of sadness. It pulled up laughter. It caused an emotion. But the movie wasn't real. Celie and Sophia and Mr. are characters. All of these things in this fake made-up world are characters that pulled an emotion out of you, pulled a real emotion out of you. Anger. How many people got, and I mean angry with Denzel Washington when he did the movie Training Day? And I mean the man received hate mail for that because he played his role so well that people believed that it was him. Do we do the exact same thing in our waking lives right now? That we see this thing called life and we choose to believe that it is our reality. Rather than saying what Glenda said to the Wicked Witch and the Wizard of Oz, you have no power here. That when I hear and see things happening in the world as we are going to, Diane spoke about it before, earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes, radioactive reactors, crash, like all these things happen. Shootings and mass shootings. Policemen bullying teenagers because the teenager is gay. Policemen bullying teenagers. Teenagers taking a young 8-year-old and putting a noose around his neck and hoisting it up, but I was only playing. Do we choose to say that is what this life is? That's how life is. Then we are saying that there is only one life and that life is racist. There is only one life and that life is God's life, and it is a life of misery, pain, and destruction. That there is only one life, that life is God's life. It is filled with homophobia, xenophobia, all of this stuff. And that life is my life now. Is that what we're claiming? Or are we able to look at a thing and speak about a thing the way we know that it is meant to be? To speak about a thing that is not as though it were and make it so. to go into a barren field of whatever this is and be the ones who say. There's a story. There are a couple of times in my life when I can look back and say, these were moments where things drastically changed. When I was in 8th grade, went on a Spanish field trip to see the Man of La Mancha, changed my life. I was the only one in the 8th grade class crying when Don Quixote de la Mancha died. Messed me up, but it changed me because from that point forward, I realized my job is to dream the impossible dream. That became my job, my responsibility. Fast forward, I'm in Carlow College, 1991-ish. And because Carlow is a Catholic institution, we had to take religious studies classes. I took Intro to the Old Testament, Intro to the New Testament, a couple other things. I could have minored in it, but if I had known, but I didn't know, so I did anyhow. Took a couple of classes, and one of the classes was The Human Experience of God. And one of the books we had to read was called The Man Who Planted Trees, about a man called Elzéard Bouffier. And it's basically about this man who goes throughout his life planting trees. And this guy visits, and he's pointing, put him in the ground, put him in the ground. And he goes about his business, and he goes to the war, and he comes back years later, and now they're seedlings. And then he goes away, and he's doing his life, and he comes back, and basically it's about how this barren field of land was changed and transformed over the years. So when this guy came back, it was a lush and beautiful orchard and field of green and cool breeze, and animals that were not there returned, and kids are playing, and this one man who chose to say, I may not live to see that in this form, but I know that in every seed, there I go. In every seed, there I go. And that which I am goes. And there is only one life, and that life is God's life, and that life is there. And 10 years from now, 20 years from now, the seeds that I plant that say this is a world of peace. That every time I see this thing called racism, homophobia, xenophobia, etc., that I am going to speak peace. Am I going to feel angry? Yes, because that's part of what being a human means. But what do I choose to do with that anger? I have to do something. There's a minister, CSL Dallas, Reverend Karen Fry, recently posted a video of Reverend, I can't think of her name now. It's going to bother me. She posted this video of this minister that went to ministerial school with her, and one of the things she says, something I've heard often, the job of a minister is to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. The job of a minister is to, when we get too comfortable, because when we get into that zone of the comfort zone, we don't grow. It's the zone right outside of that where there is training and learning. This is not comfortable. Going to mom or dad or a friend or a coworker who is saying something about racism or those gay people or whatever, and we stand there and say, I don't believe that. But we get scared to do that because they're going to say, what do you mean you don't believe that? I don't believe that. I choose to believe in something else. I choose to believe that this is the experience now, but it doesn't have to be. I choose to believe that there's a world that works for everyone in the mind of God, and there is only one mind, and that mind is my mind now. And I don't need to know how it happens. All I need to do is be willing to allow it to happen through me, and with me, and as me. Am I willing to hold these seeds, whatever they are, hope, joy, love, possibility that is infinite, am I willing to hold them and take care of them and find the right and perfect soil that these seeds are meant to be in, and take the time to plant them so that my life experience changes. And then as my life experience changes, everyone who comes in contact with me, if I am the apple tree and I am sprouting apples, then everyone can come and take an apple. And from that apple, how many seeds are now in that apple? If I am willing to be what we say that we are, if I am willing to step forward and be the change, be the light, to be the love, to be service in action, then the world has to change. That's true. Simply sinking in, allowing ourselves to be breathed, knowing that there is only one. One infinite power, one infinite mind, one infinite love. And that which it is, I am. And as I am, so everyone in this room is as well. Love is all there is. Yes. And knowing that it is all there is, I claim the power that it is. God is not simply healing the world or healing my body, but God is health itself. And as I stand in the recognition that it is health itself, then I must be a demonstration of health. Health and wellness of my body, mind, and soul. And that as I claim this, as I speak this, as I declare it, as I demand it, as I stand on that foundation, then every place that I go must also be infected with health and well-being. In this teaching, we say that there is nothing to be healed, only truth to be revealed. And so right now I stand as the ambassador of truth, that where there is discord, I bring harmony. I bring the truth that there is only harmony. I bring the truth that there is only light and love and joy and health and well-being and prosperity of every man, woman, and child, every rock, every grain of sand, every tree, and every seed. God is all there is. And knowing this truth, knowing that I stand on this foundation, I am able to comfortably and confidently, gratefully and joyfully release this word in gratitude, knowing it is already so because it came from the mind of God, through the mouth of God, to the ears of God, back into the law that is God.
Yes.
Therefore it is done, it is so, and so it is.
So it is.